Hi, I just wanted to make a short summary of the purchasing strategy that we talked about, which we call the private reserve strategy. So, one thing that we have to understand whenever we're thinking about the way that we purchase items is that you finance every single thing that you buy. Okay, you either pay interest to somebody else for the ability to use their money, or you pay cash and you give up the ability to earn interest yourself. An important concept is that every dollar that is not saved is consumed, either transferring it away in the form of interest or in the form of lifestyle, whether that's business lifestyle or living lifestyle. There's a ton of different types of wealth transfers. Here's a few. I know we went over a couple whenever we spoke. Um, but really, the most important thing is that before we make any capital outlay, or in other words, before we make any purchase, we should consider not only the cost of that purchase, but also the opportunity cost of that purchase. And it's not really what we pay for, it's how we pay for it. So, if I came to you and said that there's a car for sale, and I wanted to go buy a car, there's really kind of two ways to buy that, right? Most people say, well, I could finance the car, which means that I don't have to save any money. I don't earn any interest because I didn't save any money, and I pay interest to somebody else for the ability to use their money. But at the end of the day, I have the car and I'm paying interest on it. The second, arguably smarter way to do it would be to pay cash. So you could save money, you could earn interest while you're saving the money, and you could pay cash for the item that you're trying to purchase, in this case, a car. But whenever I pay for the car, I drain my cash, which means I can no longer earn any interest. So there is a third way to purchase different items. That's what I call the wealth creator. So what we do is we save, we use other people's money to maximize efficiency, and we compound interest over time without resetting the compounding curve. And we do that by collateralizing the things that we buy, which I'll explain in a second. Again, graphically, I could go into debt to buy a car. Let's say the car is $20,000. I go into debt to buy it. I spend the next however many years paying it off to get back to zero. And then what do? I go buy another car, another business, another major capital purchase, right? The saver, I could save up money over time, but then I go pay cash. When I pay cash, it resets my compounding curve down to zero, which means I can't earn any interest because how much interest can I earn on zero? Zero. Or you could do it the way that I'm about to describe, which is the wealth creator. First, let's talk about the problem with debt, right? It puts an obligation on future earnings, meaning that if I have a payment, I got to continue to make that payment into the future, which cuts into my lifestyle today, whether that's business or otherwise. I also lose the amount of money that I spend on the purchase and on the financing cost forever. Once it's out of my circle of wealth, it's gone and it's in someone else's circle. I can never get that money back. I become a debtor to the creditor, and a lot of times I lose control by taking on too much debt. So consumer debt is obviously not a real efficient way to make purchases, and so everyone's solution to that is, well, I could pay cash. Well, here's the problems with paying cash. To pay cash, first I have to save it. And this in and of itself can, be a hard thing to do, but I continue saving and saving. And as I'm saving the money, depending on where I'm saving it, I might have an annual tax leakage. And then when I finally get all the money together to make whatever purchase that I want to make, I have to drain the tank. And again, I have the same problem. How much money can I earn on zero? Zero. So let's talk about the true cost of paying cash. Let's say that I wanted to save $250,000 a year. I was making 5% on my money, and in, let's see here, four years I want to buy something that's worth $1 million. So here I am, $1 million, I make a purchase, right? And I do this 5 times over my lifetime until finally, 20 years down the road, I decide that I don't want to buy anything anymore. But what I've done is I've reset this compounding curve every single time. So what this green curve represents is if I were just saving the 250 every single year and essentially not making the purchase, right? Or not resetting the compounding curve. And as you can see over, this 30-year period, it makes a huge difference long term by making these $1 million purchases every 4 or 5 years. So consider this. What if I could make the purchase without emptying my tank? In other words, if I didn't have to pay cash, then my money could continue to grow. And if my money continues to grow, then I continue to get interest and everything else on it. So the question is, if I don't use my money to make the purchase, then who do I use? Well, I could collateralize a loan from a financial institution securing the loan by my money. It would look like this. Let's say that over here is your bank account, and let's say it's got $1 million in it. Okay. And over here is a business opportunity, and I want to buy a business opportunity, and it costs me $1 million. Okay, so I go to the bank, the financial institution, and I say, Mr. Banker, listen, I have $1 million sitting over here in my account. I want to go buy XYZ business for $1 million. So let me drain my account. I'll go purchase the business, and everything will go great. And what the banker says to you is, man, are you sure that you really want to go through and take your account balance all the way down to zero? Because how much money can you earn on zero? You say, well, zero, but what's your solution? I don't want to pay you interest. And he says, well, what if we did it like this? What if I put a lien against your money? I gave you a loan so that you could go buy the $1 million business. Then you pay me back principal and interest payments until one day you have me paid back. I'll release the lien, but your money has been growing the whole time. And you say, man, that sounds pretty good. My question would be, well, what am I earning in this bank account over here? Let's say I'm earning 5% on this bank account. And the banker says, well, listen, I got to make money here too. So if I'm giving you a loan and I'm paying you 5%, I'm probably going to have to charge you more on the loan. So let's say I charge you 7%. And so you get to thinking, well, if I'm only earning 5% and he's charging me 7%, we're talking about the exact same $1 million. Am I really going to come out ahead? Let's look at that math. Let's back this up. We'll look over 5 years. Okay. So here's my $1 million growing at 5%. So over 5 years, I will have earned $283,000 compounded. The final balance of my account will be $1.28 million. Okay. But he's going to give me a loan, right? So he gives me a loan for the same $1 million, and he's not going to charge me 5%. He's going to charge me 7%. Well, that would make my monthly payment $19,000. But look at that. The interest that I pay is $188,000, and the interest that I earn was $283,000. And the question is, well, how is that possible? If I'm paying 7% on $1 million, I'm only earning 5% on $1 million. How do I earn more than I pay? And the answer is pretty simple if you really think about it. It's one, I'm compounding interest year over year. Every year it goes up. The other, I'm amortizing interest. So every time I make this $19,000 payment for the month, my balance goes down, which means I owe less and less interest over time. Now here's the thing. Eventually you're going to have this $1 million paid off, right? Let's say it takes you 5 years to pay it off. At the end of 5 years, does your money stop growing? It does not. So let's look out 30 years in the future. This $1 million sitting in this account earning 5% will have grown an additional $3.5 million. So you'll have roughly $4.5 million sitting in the account. Had I paid cash for the opportunity, whatever this $1 million opportunity is, I will have cost myself almost $3.5 million over that 30-year period. But if I do it the way that the banker has described, I pay $188,000 for the ability to earn $3.5 million. So there's tons of different accounts that'll work the way I just described, but some work better than others. If I were going to build the perfect account, I'd want it to have all these different characteristics, but there is no account that has every single characteristic. So the first thing I'd want it to be is have tax deferred growth. But ideally, I want to be able to take out the money tax free at some point in the future. I'd like to get a competitive rate of return on my dollars. I'd like to be able to put in however much I want to be able to put in. If I could get a tax deduction when I put it in, that'd be awesome, right? I get a tax deduction when I put the dollars in, I grow tax deferred, and I can take it out tax free. That's great. I have to be able to use the account as collateral for what we're talking about in this purchasing strategy. I'd want it as a safe harbor and creditor proof, meaning if I got sued, they're not getting these dollars. I want to be guaranteed that my money never goes down and only goes up. I want to be guaranteed to get a loan despite what my credit was, despite how much money I had sitting out there as far as loans, despite anything. I want to be guaranteed to get a loan on this money. I want to be able to pay back that loan however I choose. I want liquidity use and control of my dollars at any point, at all times. And if I could get additional benefits, that'd be great. So here's the thing. There is no account that will provide all these different things, but if I were going to build the ideal account, that's what I'd be shooting for. So let's think about it like this. We could use a CD to do this, right? Use a CD as collateral. We're going to get paid, I don't know, maybe 2% on our CD. The bank is probably going to give us a loan, although they don't have to guarantee a loan. But they're probably going to give us a loan for 4% on our CD, and we can do the exact same thing that we described. The problem is I don't get a competitive rate of return. It's a tax-free distribution because I'm taxed along the way in a CD. I can put however much money I want into a CD. Typically, I can use it as collateral, etc. Let's see. I could do a margin account on my stock portfolio. Well, I'm not going to get tax advantages for doing that, obviously. But ideally, I could get a competitive rate of return, maybe, if the stock market does well. Hopefully it does. I could put however much money I want into the stock market on a margin account. I am guaranteed a loan on a margin account, but typically it's only about half of whatever I have invested. So I do have some liquidity use and control, but there is such a thing called a margin call. So if the stock market goes down and I have a big loan out there that now exceeds 50% of the value of the stock portfolio, they will call that, and I'm going to either have to come up with money or I'm going to have to sell off some stock. So that's maybe not necessarily the best thing to do. I could do it with a real estate home equity line of credit. Well, golly, I don't have too many benefits there. I get tax deferred growth. I can use that as collateral, but there's nothing guaranteed about anything. Or I could use permanent life insurance. Now, permanent life insurance, you get every benefit that I just described: tax deferred growth, tax-free distribution, a competitive rate of return. I can put however much money I want into a life insurance policy. Additional benefits might be if I become disabled, the account keeps funding itself. I can use a life insurance policy as collateral. It's creditor proof. I'm not going to lose money. I'm guaranteed to get a loan on the cash value at any time. I can pay back that loan however I want, and the money's incredibly liquid. So if we look at the scorecard here, here's permanent life insurance, here's all the other ones. Which one would you choose? Now the question is, why, how are we going to use life insurance to do this? Life insurance is for if you die, right? Well, the type of life insurance that I'm talking about is in case you live. So let's have a quick conversation of how life insurance really works. Let's say that I wanted to buy a $500,000 worth of life insurance. Well, there's a minimum that I could pay, and there's a maximum that I could pay. The minimum is set by the insurance company, and what they do is they get actuaries together and they figure out what is the least amount we can possibly charge and still make money to provide this guy with a $500,000 worth of death benefit. Now, if they set the minimum, who besides yourself do you think sets the maximum? Well, it's the government. Now, why would the government care how much money you put into a life insurance policy? It should tell you one thing. It has something to do with that tax-free distribution that we were talking about, right? In between the minimum and the maximum, there is an infinite number of ways to build each type of policy. In the 1980s is when the government set this maximum. And what they said is that if you put too much money into a life insurance policy, it is now no longer called a life insurance policy. It's called a MEC, or a modified endowment contract, which means that we're going to tax it very similarly to qualified plans. So obviously we don't want to put too much money in because then we're going to lose our tax-free distribution. So let's just say the minimum I could pay for $500,000 worth of coverage is $1,000 a year, and the maximum I could pay is $10,000 a year. The $1,000 a year is what we call term insurance. And with term insurance, you get one benefit, and that's death benefit. Now, if I were to pay the $10,000 a year maximum, I get all of the different benefits that I just described earlier, with the exception of tax-deductible contributions. So, if we're thinking about life insurance and how to get the most amount of money into the living benefits possible, that's all these different things over here: tax-deferred growth, tax-free distribution, etc. What I really want to do is actually push the death benefit down as low as possible so that I can push the living benefits of life insurance up as high as possible. We push that all the way up to the MEC line, but not to exceed it, and we call it a maximum efficient contract, or permanent life insurance. So the question is, how would permanent insurance work as my private reserve? Well, what I could do is I could take a policy and I could put some cash value over into the policy over time, which is going to have death benefit associated with it, right? And it's the exact same thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and take a loan against my life insurance policy. The insurance company will give me a loan, no questions asked, because it's guaranteed, to go make this $1 million purchase, what we've been talking about. I'm going to pay back that payment however I choose until one day I pay it off, the lien is released, my money has been growing the whole time, and now it's secured by a death benefit. Now, part of the reason that I can pay this back however I want is because let's say that I never pay back this loan. Okay? Ultimately, there's only two things that are certain in life, right? Death and taxes. Well, death is going to happen at some point. And since I have a permanent life insurance policy, if I take a loan against a permanent life insurance policy for $1 million and the death benefit is $10 million, worst case scenario, I never pay back that loan. The death benefit will be paid to my heirs minus whatever the loan balance is plus interest. So permanent life insurance, when designed and utilized properly, can provide stable growth, cash value collateralization, guaranteed loan access, no annual tax on growth or death benefits, and additional benefits with additional policy riders. So if we wanted to talk about how to seize an opportunity with it, let's say that I was getting 5% on my life insurance policy. That's 5% net of taxes, net of fees, net of everything. That's a true 5%. Okay, but I want to go and put my money into something where I feel pretty confident I can make 15%. Here's the thing. I view life insurance as a garage. Okay, when you want to go drive, right, and go have fun, you're going to go drive and you're going to go have fun. You're going to go make your exotic investments and go get your good returns. But at the end of the day, whenever I go home, I want to park my car in the safest place possible, which is a garage, which is permanent life insurance is the way I see it. So let's say that I had, again, $1 million sitting over here in my life insurance cash value. And let's say that the interest rate for the life insurance is 4.76. The reason I choose 4.76 is because that's what the current interest rate guaranteed is on a life insurance policy. So if you remember, when we were looking at 7%, the math worked out great. 7 over 5, you can see 4.76 over 5, it's going to work out even better. Now, here's the thing. When I go and put this $1 million into this business or this financial opportunity, and I make my 15%, okay, because I made an investment, I can write off the interest that I made on the investment. Okay, policy loan interest will be deductible as an investment expense. So, we're talking about all these different benefits down here. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm capturing the deductible contributions now, too. This 4.76 is going, I'm getting a tax deductible contribution into a tax deferred account, which I can distribute tax free. So here's the thing 15% minus 4.76%, that is my taxable growth. 10.24% or $102,000 a year on this $1 million investment. That's what I'm going to have to pay tax on. Now, the thing is, I have 3 different areas where I could put that money. I could put it to repay back the loan principal, which is going to knock out the lien on my life insurance policy as it continues to grow at 5%. I could put $102,000 more towards the financial opportunity that I'm making 15% on, or I could purchase more life insurance with it. Now, over time, as we do this strategy to make all of our different purchases, what will end up happening is we're going to add extra cash flow into our life insurance policy, which is going to cap it out to the MEC line. And so what ends up happening is people purchase more policies over time, and ultimately are able to sort of flush it out, if you will. So again, this is a real quick down and dirty summary of the strategy, but I would think about it like this. Okay, if we are going to, let's say we're going to go play golf, okay, and I could get you on the card at the Masters program, golf's most prestigious event, and I could give you one of 2 things. Either the best set of clubs ever made, or the swing of any player throughout history, and you get to choose the player. Which one do you choose? Do you choose the best clubs or the best swing? Now, the reality is you're going to choose the best swing because you and I both know that Tiger Woods could go to a garage sale, pick up 3 clubs, and beat the hell out of you and me at golf, right? The swing is what's important. This strategy or this product of life insurance, that's just a club, right? It's got to fit with your overall swing, your overall financial strategy. So again, this could be one piece, one tool in your tool chest, if you will. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. John Doubelbauer, 254-723-0691. Thanks.